We should start. It's 7:00. Yeah. So we begin with the Heart Sutra in English. Us Herbert, the one who was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, the Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There's no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasam gate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a bodhisattva mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the bodhisattva mahasattva noble Avalokiteshvara that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the venerable Shariputra, the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Lamaga Gambo Jetsu Yame Yama Jase Kangi Lodre Dini Deda Nida Namda Rasavi Chene Gengo Jeye Teche Nije Tuba Lebanze Ata Sibe Tere Mari Meta Duna Jizewe Rozo Guna Pechi Tati Yara Tuju Yang Son Ruda Chedo Nemo Nilo Leje Chado Doze Mare Mese Dume Nigu Chene Chente Radena Dune Daji Saju Dazu Yete Luzo Jase Tuveko Juda Juda Juni Jidu Nalo Mese Jabe Yama Om Arabhasanadi 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 Sedem Cheche Chera Veseche Dalo Dimu Mabarasane Kada Tenju Yulu Tobai Lodru Bobe Narwa Tsedu So. Short mandala offering on page 16. Saji Puki Joje Medora Rera Leye Nide Jebadi Sanje Jindo Mide Purwayi Loga Namda Jena Jebairo Jetsu Lama Tamba Jena Je Juga Kala Jeze Jene Jeta Zambe Duje Zemala Saji Juje Jabava Toso Rana Mida Lagani Yadayame. Refuge prayer on page 22. Sanjay Jodha Dwaje Jona La Janjo Bardo Dane Josuji Dagi Juje Jibe Sonamji Rola Benjira Sanje Rupara Sho Sanjay Jodha Dwaje Jona La Janjo Bardo Dane Josuji Dagi Juje Jibe Sonamji Rola Benjira Sanje Rupara Sho Sanjay Jodha Dwaje Jona La Janjo Bardo Dane Josuji
Dagi Chuji Jibe Sonam Rola Benjira Sanji Rubara Tangru Teri Shuagi Teri Shuang Tsangravate Yara Nipa Suma Sati Sajina Yara Nipa Suma Sati Chagure Teri Tsichana Quando Mugunjom Jambatan Renji Nipa Mawai Kajin Chuan Dubanjur Zuma Baman Chivaran Juros Motek Nashuna Then Digi Karisha Warna 다 장주 선바주 아니 이제 너와 제우래 소래 다 이엔도발라 셴 담는 요리 제가 시위가 돈이 셴도야 지위가 리그 돈이 셴도야 왕기 리그 돈이 셴도야 저번 문제가 리그 돈이 셴도야 남이 쇼노리야 아니 리지 소리 시위가 리 지위가 리 왕기 리 저번 문제가 리스네 Atene soya jasan ta ndeliya kwendo muguen jamba ta kwendo sesabu kadu ina so ta du kadu ina tu le ji le yin zame du kadu ina as ane muguen jamba muguen se ate muguen pe kar sawre ji long sabo ane de na ji pa jun se shesa menge la sa ji ju se de 저 나나 비비제 용어서나 근데 여러분다 빼는 것은 랑부치 랑구에서 하는 거 따따구에서 하는 거 근데도 따따구에서 해서 되면 따서 담보 무슨 너무 쉬비 그래 랑부치 문도 그 야야 쉐니 근데 그 마칼에 칼에 들고 보도와 아니 제수 아니 먹을 가를 비졌다나 아니 그 다통이지 자연도 왔다 맞더니 되는 게 랑보치 다 작은 나무 보여요 랑보치 되게 랑보치 다 담보 랑보치 랑고라는 거 아니 송 아니 되네 칼라테게 되게 아니야 아주 두개 도서는 슈마 매기 가라를 비저 담나 단투에 주소한도 와 되나지 메인에 되려 먹게 먹거든요 소강 라마킹에 소강 칼면에 된다 용거들 이나 뜻소리야 장보 신 터키바 지네 근데 시위에다 왕기에다 지베게다 저번 문제가 되거든요 지 고라나야 간다한테 비저 본도 된다 지네 나는 되게 따니 아니 먹게도마 먹게도마 또그래서 그런데 제가 먹은 장바 따다다 먹게도를 아니 장보지네 돼야 숨바래 다 시위게 되거든요 아니 먹게도래 개천님 보시 증장 보시 도지네 테마 지선이도 많이 봐 되다도 된다지네 들어이나 아니 먹게도서 이나야 막이 들니 아니 지소라니기 아니 ndutwa 중국에서네 어떠송도
So we are on the verse 10.
Verse 10.
Verse 10 is about how to tame other beings. It talks about how to tame other beings. So when it comes to the taming other beings, there are 4 ways in which that actually recognize that activities of the 4 tamings, the 4 kind of activities that tames others. By peaceful means, by increasing means, by powerful means, and by wrathful means.
Sorry, I couldn't quite hear. Peaceful.
And increasing and powerful means and restfulness. So those are the four ways, the four kinds of methods or the skillful means of taming others. So in this particular context, uh, in this particular verse, it actually mentions this someone who is totally free from agitation, speaks gentle, measured, loving words, and attract worldly people who are ready to learn and arouse their interest. So we need to find in different ways of taming others, because if you're unskilled in taming others, it's not going to be effective. It will not effect when you try to tame others. In order to tame others, first of all, one should understand that one is genuinely tamed and gain a skill in taming others. And then only one can proceed to the activities of taming others. Otherwise, without being tamed one's own mind and one's own behavior, if one remains oneself as a very contemptuous behavior and contemptuous way of looking at others, it is not possible for the one to tame others. So therefore, when we are thinking about taming others, it is very important to think of oneself first of all. What level of practice of taming your mind is? What kind of, the method of skillfulness that tame one's mind must be understood. On the basis of one's own practice, one's own experience, one can then, carry on the activities of taming others, such as four types of activities that we talked about earlier. So, because when we come across with the different attitudes or the different behaviors of the individual, requires a different methods and different skill levels of taming. Sometimes we may end up with, coming across with individual who is like an untrained horse, who is like an untrained elephant and so on. It's very vicious and very, condescending and very complacent, and think that they are the one who knows everything and doesn't need to be improved. And with this kind of, and someone who has this kind of attitude, if we try to tame without having any skill gained by oneself, first of all, then it is not possible for one to tame others. So therefore, one should begin in practice how to tame others. One should know how to tame others. One's taming of other beings based on the one's own experience, how one has tamed in the beginning.
죄송. 다음으로 딸 때문에 람보치 때는 속에 시와 장복 통이 뜨뱅이 봐요 말에. 이내에 근데 누군 장바 당한서데 지금 누게 저데베 장복 통이 되고래스. 단지반은 더 손도 스진 좀 받자왔더니 장주스비 잡아인데스. 장주스 받더게더니 스지도 순도 받자데 근데 장주스바기 자가 기체가 지래서 그래. 장주스바 속에 스지 코로나가 조만도 돼요. 제 그야데 장주스바 속에다 내가 기체가 지래서 가르나 장주스바 속에 뭐에간 스지 단지 산직살이야. 그야가 뭐에 들어와. 스지 단지 산직살을 그와라. 스지 단지 랑이 와도 되니. 랑이 지송 가도 제가 좀 쟁이 주소니. 안 스지야 랑도가 내더니 산직살이야. 그거 보는데 랑이 지송 가도 제발아 저 담보 랑이 와도 되고 그랬는데 예 라게 모든 도와라 특히 야휘도 찌마도 요말에 된 잠보 지야들에 빼놓고서 지 제가 시면다다 가리지네요. 모든 잠보 지니 저서대서 소설 코용고도 마도 아니 그들이야 또 자주 수원으로 지나는 다 배워가지고 수용고도 제가 자주 쓴거 소개더니 예 랑이 어떤 데비 그래 잠보부터 하니 아니 누구 거기 뭐 들으시 송도
So, however, the most of the Bodhisattva's way of taming others is based on their extension of love and compassion towards others. Although there are 4 different ways of taming others. So, so it is therefore, according to the text, taming others by peaceful means is one of the core practice of Bodhisattva, and this the way in which the Bodhisattvas normally tame other beings is by peaceful means, by extending their unconditional love and compassion. So therefore, so that the Bodhisattvas can integrate other beings, and who will then become obedient to the Bodhisattvas, so that the Bodhisattvas can teach them what is to be practiced and what is to be abandoned.
지난단디 장주스 뭐저게 jambo 제단디 무슨 배반하지 마요. 문에 버게 세위 끊이만이 또 jambo도 제용거로 지나더니 ndezogin ki nedana teni ine ngaran so ji mei che so na ya so ji dechin ro chu go na ya so gan jiyo so ya ane ji ba ge ti ku ne lan de penzo jambo thani ane chambo ne gu ya jingo penbo ine ya ba mi si so ya ane jambo thani to se nde chon je ya pene ge ji ne ya ge ni gu chu so ya 진장벽 도안이 네 도서 로존테야 파마이네 지 보고서는 문이 제일 그냥하네 장벽 도안이 네아 보고서에 질러서 제야래 무슨 로단래 도나래 드는나고에 되기쯤이 살에 제가마도 네 고츠투보는 거지다 장벽 건드는 제와이나 그게 있네 지 그루서 그게서 뭐가 찬동한다고 아니 파마이네 버르질 보고서 파마스를 먹으면 찬도 근데 요데 거로 자 대인데 네 손들을 때니 에는 알아서 지주다 주마이 망보지리야 네 도는 것도 상당히 되지래.
So, the Bodhisattva's way of taming others is mainly extending their compassion and love towards others. And the way they tame others is, regardless of what kind of physical and verbal behavior they may have, the Bodhisattvas may have, but in the deep down, their motivations are completely moistured by the compassion and love. And it is suggested that most of the time, when we talk about taming others according to Dharma, we should tame by means of cultivating love and compassion, by love and compassion. And just like the students whose teachers were brave, loving, and caring, and were compassionate, the students will have special affection and sense of connectedness with the teacher. Similarly, that parents who are more caring and compassionate towards their children, the children will have special feelings and special or sense of caring and sense of connectedness with their parents. So similarly, when it comes to the taming of other beings, although that we have a different ways of taming others, it is suggested as a practitioner of Bodhisattva's path, where uh, it's more effective to tame others by peaceful means, which means to on the basis of cultivating love and compassion and sense of caring for others.
그래서 다든지 계셔대 모두 왜 시발은 집에더니 라디오가 나네. 예, 저도요 걸 제단데도 돼요. 가지게 대 추 계셔야겠네. 이게 조금은 되는데 상당히 용도래. 제가 다들 추노 소셜적 뜻어디 야콘도는다 된 너무 보는 정도와 제단 좀 된데 손에 야콘도로 오래 좀 된데 특히 두지 정보 된다 진행해서 오래 제가 거기 취쟁에다 취무쟁에서 이와스게 제거요 말에 간다 신제지 체제라 대진 등에다 동해 문제인지 이봐 시송 토니 은 참말이야 대진되나 은 리드네지 장고래 리드네지 전에 동해 용고래 했으니 참말이야지 취제 문제 계지 시고 말 대진 등에 이 체제라 은 런던 되지 제고 그래 했으니 참말마 주소중이 소용 그래 내도 추는 소시지 때 소에도 추는만 소용 그래 때데 된다데 간다 시지 대진 되지 참말이 근데 돌아야 나는 있잖니 또 나와있는 변도에 되지래
The Shantideva has taught this, given this instruction in accordance with the teachings of the Dharma, which is teachings of the Buddha, the instruction given by the Buddha. That doesn't mean that this instruction is only for someone who practices Dharma. This instruction is for instructions can be adopted by all beings, regardless of their belief system, even non-believers. But the main purpose of giving these instructions or practice is to achieve happiness and overcome suffering, which is a common desire or the aspiration of all beings. Because there's not even a single beings who do not want happiness and who do not have a desire to eliminate their sufferings. So therefore, the instruction that we find here, although it is teachings of the Dharma, that the teachings of the Dharma is not only for the Dharma practitioners, but it's for all beings.
때는 단다고 차려야 무슨 배다는 거지 정으로 붙이네 배다는 데도 다 들리시 비치로 마음보 열어 제가 가디나 에니페 셴이야 지 정비 깔로 장니지 다 장주 센 도장 깔로 나야다 아니 깔로 나와서 마세베 지 무슨 데지 도와이네 시리금 좀다다 아니 무슨 데지 도와이네 지 참아 도와다가는 센데 지 가서 제등이 파적이 배싱 좀다다 아니 배 나게 년자다 된날 때니 수인의 집하게 채바이네지 아니 가서 그래 얘 당화지등 얘 가서 지등에 아니 배 정말 이제 배 센을 플라나시고 중세하고 드나 용되고 저서 장주 선바 속에다 현도야게 대히데 장배도 안에 돼야 돼. 다 장주 선배 기대니 자기 체주 지도 생발에
Let's take an example of His Holiness Siddhartha Lama, or there are many other great beings. Whenever they meet, with whomever they meet, the levels of beings or human beings in any categories, it is because of his unconditional love and compassion for them regardless of who they are, regardless of their belief system, even those who are not a believer, who are atheists, after meeting the His Holiness, they will always say that they have changed their way of thinking. They have gained something inside by meeting His Holiness. I don't know. And also there are many other great beings. Often their meetings, there are many who have changed their mind, transformed their mind, and become a better person and so on. So it is all because of their unconditional sense of caring and unconditional love and compassion for others. It's such a, in a very peaceful way of attacking others, taming others, rather than giving them all kind of instructions that are very hard to follow. So this is, if we can practice how to cultivate unconditional love and compassion, then that is the greatest skillful means of taming oneself and taming others.
저는 내일도 장주 스마트에 자와 기침을 된다래서다 먼저 장주 스마트를 봐 장장 많이 맞이다 소소라니 기간에 제고를 해야 되래 저다다 무슨 들어줘 제대로 가는 말은 또 대체 되딩이 임부스 하서 대체도 그러고 그래서 내일도 나 말도 못해 따서 대 장주 스마트에 되네 나타들에 배달에 다 말은 소리 대체 되는 이유도 말은 소나 주준도 지도 나래야지 소리지 제바이나 아니 편주 제세다 아니 제 증량벽 마주에다 된대지다 간다 소소 자가는 제바네 지 주나니 이해해야지 편도 전도 공로다 아니 된대지 마도 아니지 너밤매지 야가 당저 요 된대지도 아니 지도 나래야 나도 전도이나 소소를 들어봐비 대치지 된대 요아래.
So this is how the Bodhisattvas practice. This is how the great practitioners have practiced. So if you follow their practice, not necessarily that one should become a Dharma practitioner, but follow their practice, such as cultivating love and compassion for others, will greatly benefit oneself. Because cultivating unconditional love and compassion is the root cause of achieving happiness and overcome sufferings. And achieving happiness and overcome suffering is a common goal of all sentient beings.
지난 드발이야 상하고 장관도 그래 못된다 도구도 도비 그래야 공문이 무엇이면서 개말때 왠지 도비 그래야 지지래 지 문제도 있잖아 하에도 세야도 보다 아니 다리지 보용아 쇼하세요 하비고를 제세하는 된다 남도 와서 때문에 그루지 간다와 있는 말이는 등을 연도서다 튼데도 주선 튼데도 와 제가 되고 기침을 해 제가 무엇이 좀 많이 주로 못하면 자랑을 두게 그래 지지 난줘야 보는데 근데 지그 야로 지지집에 그래 소소세야냐 그냥 좀装上 놓으려도 저때 그런 거 사는 날에 추이다 제 사람 거기 있잖아 매주 되는데야 근데 장주스면 저기 자 대서다 그 투시 친구도 와 특히 좀 해봐라.
So here in our day-to-day life, even when we come across with an unknown person, we have a ways of greeting them by smiling at them, and just saying hi to them, or greeting them in accordance with the time, such as good morning, evening, and so forth. And this is a way that we all adopted. And this is the kind of, the ways of greeting others that we adopted. But if we do so with wholeheartedly, this will enhance our practice of love and compassion and caring for others. Because it is not something that we take it for granted and we just, without any feeling, we just see someone and just say hi and say, take care. When you say take care of others, when we say that, okay, take care, have a nice day, you should say so from the depth of one's heart. And if one is able to do this with the genuine motivations and wishing a genuine happiness upon others and wishing genuine happiness of that individual, uh, then this will really help us to enhance one's practice. Just instead of saying this is just a way it is, so we should say hi to others, we should greet others without any having any kind of genuine motivations. We are saying it, we are taking our time, putting our effort. Why don't we make this effort and our time and energy meaningful and purposeful?
다 누군 잠바탄 세야 모두 직상하지 않다. 소소 지 소소를 내지되는 거지다. 소소를 막아 지되는 거지. 다 태고에는 소소게 될래야 순뇌지와네 판뇌지와네 가디이나 코당 로버차다 로다님 차야 하장 가고래. 비면서 봤다 그래. 제가 다 봐줘되게 소라네리야 진내반도 가서 지와네 소소문에 니제 군들한테 안에 바로 버려야 가디나 진 로다대야다 성장보시야다 대다지 제대로이나 그 뒤나식 셀을 바로 보던 주안도니 장기원도 투아지 유해에 자자도 제가 내도 무근 정바탄스 에나 지소소를 먹는데 보통 소소게 라다고데게 유나 모달라가 주반에 무초니를 페버도 제베 저다지도 같은 일을 하나지 지 바로 라니 손에 받게 되는 데가 무초받지니 세 무초에토니 아니 발랜드 페버도이나 아니 고 제베나래 차로를 근데 저바 고와이나 아니 바로 보데 뒤나시 세 고도는 좋아치니 아니 라니 처로가 좋아니 타코야 보여는 걸 두자는 제인데 그 단단한데 집에 배생권이 라니 근데 이나데다 나로 들고 살아간다고 근데 그 거진 좋아치니 아니 장기 모든 도요마치 용거를 해서 또 소이스
So then here, even when someone inflict harm upon us, either verbally or physically, of course, they might have some kind of intention of inflicting harm upon us, but the intention is not something that can be seen by us or that can be understood by us. But we know that when someone is trying to inflict harm upon us by verbally or physically, so we know that. So what kind of response that we should have towards those individuals, instead of retaliating, instead of reacting accordingly. One should always, in the deep down as the practitioners, always have a compassion and love for that person, and always remain unaffected mentally by that person's behavior, the other person's behavior, because if we really examine very carefully, when someone does something bad to us, someone who is trying to inflict harm upon us, we have a choice. How do we actually react towards that harm, that someone who's inflicting harm upon us? How do we interact with these individuals? We do have choice, but we're not taking a choice. We're not we are not actually looking at the choice, but we have a tendency of reacting towards that individual accordingly. When someone says something bad to you, someone says something bad to us, we have a tendency of saying the same thing to that person, even worse, you know. And this is the tendency that we have, but we're not choosing the right one. If we want to choose, there's a choice that we can choose the right one. It's not something that you have no choice at all. We are saying that I have no choice but to retaliate, but this is totally wrong. We have a choice, but we're not choosing the right choice. We're not actually choosing the right one. So here, when if one is able to really, you know, if one is able to practice genuinely, the practice of loving kindness, the practice of genuine loving kindness, then loving kindness, the practice of loving kindness is not something that is beneficial to others. It ultimately benefits oneself. If one's mind is completely moistured or conditioned by this practice of loving kindness, then even if someone says something bad to us, one will be able to remain calm and peaceful, in which practitioner or the viewer, one is the individual who is actually getting benefit out of this practice, not someone, but ultimately you are the one who is actually receiving this practice. So if one is able to adopt such practice, then even when someone who is being bad to us, someone who is looking at us negatively, at some point there's a time that they can change their mind and become a better person by following one's example, but your own example, by seeing that, well, I've been doing so bad to that person. I've been bad to him or her, but he still remained calm and very uh, able to maintain his positive attitude. Probably there might be something wrong with me. There's always chances. You're also not, giving a benefit. You're also not receiving the benefit only for yourself, but also providing a chance to the other person to change their behavior. So,
다저가 됐는데 jambo chini ene rang do tabatle jambo chini de doni rangi ondo dutoi junga ina ene rani le do chime ba chando re ne ndu rani chibo chawre rani dejin de yim chani rani le chibo yong re ta mare ta di rani ga ondo du ta de kale rangi ondo du ta kale ne rani ki tele lang do ne doni ene rinpiya ji suzo jiwa ni rinpiya lang ni tani rinpiya tani kandarang rinpiya sanji kopang ya kuya kuya rwa junzi to moyi tere mato tega rani jiwa yungu yu batang rani rdame ba chagu yu bati to ma re to di peni derwa ko shenda jile lang to ne tuyang kuya na pena ji karsa gore mataba rabo ji dang tongba nyin rabo ji dang jangju bu sen rabo ji khole ji ten go yo na ali ten wala so ten sa go yodo jo ro pa jo de ten sa go yodo jo na ali pa jo de rani go won dun de anu ko ma ten ni anu ko na le je ni anu rimbi ko ya des chasan da yang ro go wa mo yo to de re ada rani de ji yo gre tu to ma re.
Although this practice of compassion and love that ultimately benefit oneself, but as a bodhisattva, the practitioner of the bodhisattva, bodhicitta, Our aim is not to benefit, benefit oneself alone. One's aim, objective, is to benefit other beings. So, because through peaceful means, if one is able to transform that other person's mind or their behaviors, and one will then be able to give them genuine instructions so that they can follow the practice. And by giving these instructions, they will then become a better individual. And over time, they are able to embark on the spiritual path and finally to the state of complete enlightenment. So then, in order to do that, we should first give them instructions of what is to be abandoned and what is to be adapted, what is to be achieved, in other words. So to do that, we need to, first of all, demonstrate ourselves that we are capable of giving them the right instructions. One's behavioral, verbal, and physical, verbal and physical behavior is a reflection of one's motivations. So therefore, one should speak gently, not just being gently without having any motivations of being gentle, but you have to have genuine motivations of being gentle to others, whether one is speaking or having a physical actions of one's physical behaviors and so forth. And this is how we can set an example for others. By setting such example, then the individual will become a right person to be taught the teachings of impermanence, emptiness, bodhicitta, and so on. Because first of all, without becoming that individual as suitable for receiving this teaching, we simply cannot teach that person, thinking that I know about impermanence, I know about emptiness, I know about bodhicitta, I'm going to teach you. This is not however, it's not going to work. It is in order to teach someone about all those subject matters, and that individual must become a suitable vessel for receiving those teachings. In order to become the individual, a suitable vessel, one should be the individual who is actually providing that condition for the person to become a suitable vessel.
That's range is range said rainbow said rainbow said the package more. Taco Mugun which is in Jumbo Chevala, Coran rainbow chevore so the rainbow the dam Musosolia Kamada Yungore, Dosimanda Yungore Chesa, Ta Coran rainbow chevore and Jumbo de Mato. Ya Coran rainbow Jumbo de Machina, young got the true Marma. Chesa.
Couldn't be rich about the ranging of Roy saying the what? Oh, let's.
So the range is at Rambojing Tony, the do a check water. Jazan, then the Naju, John de Chiju, Turkey, but to each about the Demasodo. Just Turkey bus to each about them, Turkey bus said, Cheda Sanji, did you so sweet count on Meba, Palanya, so the Mason to Chingu Sambo, and then Korea. Jumbo country general Rembayume, to that Chinguerwa. Just the day you do, and so like country Rembayana, Tana Tumbi in Jambote, Chetuguerwa, just the day you do, and also in a young Chiparopoe, Dabata Tumbi, and the Rembaji, Jambo Chegua, the kitchen was somewhere.
So, although it is as we as ordinary beings, not possible for us to understand the dispositions and the spiritual inclination of the individual. We should at least have some level of understanding or the assumption of the other individual's dispositions to teach others. Without having this, we cannot give them, without having a little understanding of the individual's dispositions, it is not possible. It is not, where we do not know whether your instruction is going to be beneficial for that individual or not. So therefore, what I stated that one should always have some level of understanding of the other individuals' inclination and their dispositions to give the Dharma instructions of the practices. It's not necessarily the Dharma, it's the instructions of the practice. That's all.
저 변하면서 저거 시베 더비 거래 들이야 아니 칼라는지 되나 콜을 рем보 차는 거래 저거 시베 자디비 거래 콜 칼라위 수지는 콜을 рем보 차고 말해 되나 이게 나시 시베 장이 거래 시베 차디비 거래 콜 들어오지 되나 대고 рем보로 차는 사와 시베 쓰디비 거래 콜 들어올 두고 있잖아 콜을 рем보 차 말해 되나 이게 마타바 거래야 지코로 도나영을 지리 마타바 거티나 코로나 рем보 차는 거래 마타바 도나영에 동반 도나명이 지리 동반이 거시되나 콜을 рем보 차 말해 어떤데 많이 봐 코로나 간 대바 여바 된다지 가도 되래 아니 렘바지 콜에 장보지 시바지 그래서
So just like here, if someone who doesn't need to eat food, who's already eaten enough and completely stuffed him or herself, and if you force that individual to eat again, then that person it's not appropriate. So when if you know that someone is hungry and you give them a food, this will be appreciated, and it will also become a practice of your own generosity. Becoming a condition for perfecting your practice of generosity. So similarly, when someone who is not open towards listening to the teachings of the impermanence, if you force to give these teachings of the impermanence, it's not going to help at all. Someone whose mind is closed and not open to such teachings, why we should force that individual to give the teachings, because teachings is, after all, the teachings is to benefit others. Similarly, when someone is not interested in receiving the teachings of emptiness, who is not actually listening to the teachings of emptiness open-heartedly, that is not beneficial to giving them the teachings of emptiness. In brief, when someone is giving the teachings, and when someone is listening to the teachings, needs both giving the teachings must have open-hearted, and also the receivers of the teachings also have open-hearted.
다 네바 마와이스 네바세데 네보스안 위치레 네보스 선봉도 짜도 지나 짜게 짜 초초들이로 또 꼬던 찬종에 엔데도 멜다도 지리 뭐 네보잖아 고군도 줘요 너게도 소리야 장보지 그런 렘바기더니 장보지 그 빠르치고 아니 소소고 되니 쇼를 소소고 양도시들 양종에 만도시들 만종에 칼니 보지 거라 대나시 따따고 있는데 가나간 이네 도스 야보지 되니 되는 그랬더니 소소게 간다비게 땅게나 땅투야지 차고요 대나시게 아니 나 뭐래 뭐그 답지바이나 아니 도스 렘빈 장보에 보지 저와나 아니 그 배념으로 차는 쇼를 소소게 되니 가래 고군도 보지 자유래서.
So therefore, when we try to give instructions to others, which is a part of taming others. This is also the part of taming others. So we should do so in accordance with the, the mental, spiritual condition and the mental disposition of that individual, and try to give them a very lucid instructions. In other words, as lucid as possible, something that can be comprehensible, something that can be comprehended by the individual, and try to begin from a very, simple instructions, so that they can grasp onto those instructions and follow those instructions, and then gradually, be able to change or transform their mind and become more open-hearted. And then one can, give the more teachings, the profound teachings, on such as the teachings on, impermanence and so on.
단데 땅 나중에서 샤넬의 düğümü 시세게 숨되고 더 집어넣어 주제 düğümü 시세야 돼야 두잔 düğüm이 다 시래 지상 담보서서 두잔 düğüm이 지도 근데 짐바 땅으로 해서 그래 저 짐바 땅에 이제 좀 돼야 다기 땅으로 해서 그래 아니 내가 와서 그래서 뭐 근데 님보진이 시에 그래 그게 님보진이 시에 배 kurso yele tua pedogredne dos 시에버려서 근데 내가 kurso düğüm으로서 아니 되게 봐서 아니 내가 좀 그래 아니 저절이야 랑도가네 düğüm으로서 아니 자주세 나를 때는 제거래 돈이 나를 제거래 도들은 베르베 타바도 대지고 그것도 도지니 은로당서 시에버려서 근데 시와도 맞으면 된다 봤을 때는 타마타마데 라니기 예를 시바 나시기 라니기 나리 나히지 제거래서 그 현다 파시에서도 저기 라니츠 빼다에 빠지 라니기 당을 제거래서 저선 그냥 파시에 대해 저도 제거니 제거를 잔듯이 소속 강주 강주에 제대로나 엔데 디용 것이는 타마도 참고요 말이야. 저선 예는들한테 제거래서네 라한테만 나시기 소소라니 라한테 강래야 바로 보고 문배다에 빠진 루트가 제거래서 드나시래 근데
So we also find in the many texts, the Dharma texts, where it teaches about where it talks about the qualifications of the teachers of the Dharma teachers. In other words. And one of the very important qualifications, the qualities that Dharma teacher must have, is the practice of the full practice of gathering disciples, or the full practice of integrating, disciples. The four practices here as follows. The first is to become generous. One should be generous to their disciples. And when the teacher is speaking to the teacher, you should speak very gently and very soft, and not again, as we mentioned earlier, being gentle speaker or the soft speaker. Not only just your being speaking gentle, but this gentleness of your speak must be derived from love and compassion, or towards love and compassion for their disciples. And with this, then the third quality is to then be ready to teach, give the teachings of what is to be abandoned and what is to be adopted. And that too, one must become a well-learned about Dharma, such as the teachings of Dharma, teachings on bodhicitta, emptiness, and how to train oneself to gain liberations and finally to the state of enlightenment. And those kind of quality must be must be present in this in this in the teacher, must be present in the teacher, the stream of being. And then finally, this most important thing is to not only the whatever the practice that the instruction that you have given to the disciples, but this should the instruction that you have given to the disciple must be demonstrated by your own practice. One should follow the practice thoroughly, and one should gain all this knowledge and practice. So without following the practice, we have a saying that someone who is an expert, Dharma expert, and Dharma practitioner are completely different. Someone who knows how to explain, someone who knows about, Tripitakas and so forth, and someone who practices is completely different. There are many who are very good with speaking, very good with explaining, but when it comes to the practice of one's own, the individual practice, then they remain pretty weak in their practice. So those are not at Dharma practice, but the Dharma as well. So therefore, the teachings of the Dharma, the teachers of the Dharma teacher should follow the practice, not only the expert in Dharma, but following the practice of Dharma.
Tandana yiga mawa yese, je tsing jamba, ngan jamba, paro bege, any lotang, tsamba, rembo, tenda mawa ina, ane je ledam melange kawa tandembe, tenda ge jiwo toso, ane rani gindumba chi yungule yesa wala. Kachi chuan dumba jo.
So if one is able to, adapt those kind of qualities, then one will be able to gather disciples, and then one will be able to give them the teachings, and providing them the teachings how to embark themselves on the path of liberation and its state of enlightenment.
Tenda yuditini, tada tamche rani ki jisu zunwa, yoba tenda chi yungule yesa.
So then, if one has these qualities, then the disciples will follow also. His disciple will follow him.
How do you try it?
If you have questions, so we'll take 3 questions. Mr. Michael, any questions?
Next week.
Next
I have half a question.
Sure.
I think that it's that hard to understand, it's difficult to master.
Okay, so I would like to come about that in this certificate that the name now that's a couple of us.
So to reiterate his point this week, could you go back to the guide and read chapter 6?
What is it?
So after his talk today, it really reminded me how little I remembered of chapter 6 on patience. And
Absolutely, yeah, that's a
I-
good one. Absolutely.
Right. So that's where a couple of my questions came from.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, seriously, so next week I will, but I don't have that book in my head. Okay, because this is more like research. As I understand it, this book is a research for the guide for the books. Like, that's the PowerPoint of this book? Okay.
The door scaling with the door that you want. It's under the located near the and the change go just name the change part. 心智节能研究那里，心智节之间的处这项学我是影响，主要是看面色的，你没说多少个，就是这玩意呢，反正不是，这玩意呢，研究些中国人，这样可以不给他，
这个那个差不多，这个差不多嘛嘞。这个呢，这当个的，这当个刚才说给土嘞，充当嘛充当，我送什么，你叫他送，我去吃药了。他那边喜欢了可能给土了，我就干可以的嘛呢，刚才得嘛送嘛，我去吃呢，那地方了，咱就吃药了。那对我了，咱专有的吃什么之类，在家里呢，一般的可能专有呢，那马爸爸做的，那对那里呀，样子学是呢，都什么了吧？加上对应的那对的我了，咱原本就是带来的，对应的可能早等这个是给差不多嘛嘞。
It's not a very the research of the Bodhisattva's guide to the Bodhisattva of life, nor it is a commentary on guide to the Bodhisattva of life. Because Shantideva has given teachings, actually, the Siksa Samuccaya is the prior to guide to the Bodhisattva of life. It is very clear that when he gave the teachings on the Bodhisattva of life, when he stated, if you have not understood this, you should look at the Siksa Samuccaya. That clearly means that he has already written this Siksa Samuccaya prior to guide to the Bodhisattva of life.
He had it stored in his, the roof of his hut, correct?
What's that?
So the story that I heard was that Shantideva gave the guide to the Bodhisattva. Bye-bye, disappeared, correct? He ascended and disappeared at the end of the guide to the Bodhisattva. And then the monks said, oh, and then they went and found him. And he said, oh, no, you look up in my roof of my hut, and that's where the book was. So he had written it entirely before Guide to the Bodhisattva. Because as I understand it, this book was in his hut, and they found it.
In his hut or your hut?
His
where
hut.
Where he lived?
Hut, where he lived.
Okay.
Yeah, it was up in
His room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his room.
Okay. HUT, right?
What?
HUT hut, that's what you're talking
Yeah.
about? Okay. The Yemeni called the Lugina David, Lugina, the Konda Kesishula, Junju Nabeka, the Anico, Shutigania, they are perishing, you don't know who Namia, Namka, Jayas of Yes, and Tamita Yoga songs and the love duty, Koran, the Shusha, some gone to hearts that you conjure Shuraba, Shusha Shotinamia, and thank you. Maybe because of the Kelon to be to never rest, and then she begin ideas of those.
Retenere, Chetenere using Sanko, Legitimate Sanva.
That's all.
Junju Shul Sombra. In a Kurang Turia, you let the Junju Zokurang go to the Conchudero.
No.
Comanche with Michi. In a Dago, Ma Dujalma, Tendang Majana, and then let it money. That's how Junju the Shul, Dujalma, so much.
That's true. So, the Siksa Samuccaya is already written prior to the guide to the Bodhisattva also apply. And so it is therefore if when he gave the teachings of the guide to the Bodhisattva apply, and there are some the verse that may not be able to comprehend by the followers, then the followers should look at the Siksa Samuccaya. That clearly means that he already had been written the Siksa Samuccaya prior to the guide to the Buddhist also apply. But the stories, it's true because they have, it says it's, finally they found the Siksa Samuccaya and that is meditation resident, it says.
I'm sorry, meditation,
Resident.
yeah, where it was.
가와랬었대. 거기 간다. 딩에서 사실 가와랬었대.
그래도 그들이 나는 데 영어래. 왜 쉬어는 나는 데 쉬니 준비도 수마라.
No. 딩에서 돼 나는다라.
제 나는 데래.
Should
나는 데
be
영어래.
no, cannot say that's exactly in Nalanda itself, but nearby Nalanda.
Okay, no, that's why I guess this is a really good thing, and I mean it sincerely, because I had always looked at this as what he had done for himself, and then the guide to the Bodhisattva being an explanation before he disappeared. Like here, okay, so I'm gonna leave for a while, so here, you think about this. That's why I say that. Sometimes when I've read them quite, and when I read the guide, it seems like, or when I'm reading this, especially like in the wisdom chapter, the guide's wisdom chapter and this wisdom chapter, they're not the same, but they're parallel. They hardly ever, they don't, run the same track, but I guess that maybe I shouldn't read it. I'm reading it as the same book, kind of just franchise. So like when we go through the wisdom chapter here, I have to redo the wisdom chapter guide. So, but we shouldn't think of it that way? I don't know. I don't know where I got that idea from. So the question is, the two are separate, correct? I mean, now after his answer, the two are separate.
You mean the
Guide and,
this two, of course,
okay,
of course, yeah.
the two are separate.
This is separate, yeah. 거기
Okay.
용가가 was 준주다 이 용가가 자주 was. 얘네가 지금 뭐 용기 다 가서다 주제스네도 그 되게 되게 간다 지 저희도 굉장히 was. 뭐도 지 시간 용거는 가봐로 was. 그 용이 주제도 또 저희 was. 나한테 때는 그리고 그 제를 다 이제 당도 그 준주를 당도한테 지 장주생의 평행이나 고소리 제제한테나 저와 관관 좋아요 되더니 내용 제배는 흉가가 왔을 때
숑 가가래 주자야 노고래 니자 장주생 용게 주자성 장주생 용고래 이내야 le deux de benang sur peshana le deux de sosogi de shinju chebe namba sonachi nashi chebe namba nochi le shwara kurangi thama 장주 세종 고 chebe neka chwerwa nashi chebe kale de doju mambo na ya kana sonyo me kone chi tseni mozo to de so adne jorwa nashi bi bazone chire 때 나시 제니 돼 자도 콘도 주트비 거야. 다라니 그 된다 자도 콘도 주트비 그래. 시야라마 뉴디 마지. 된다 이거 마시야 주로 와. 때 주인도 참.
So secondly, there's if you look at the content of the text, the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life and this Siksa Samuccaya, this is a parable, that's a parable, but then it's a different text.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it's like, you can't,
And so the way that the Siksa Samuccaya is written by by Shantideva is that when he followed the practice of the world,
Right.
and whatever that he learned and he knew about, and he has written in this Siksa Samuccaya in detail.
Right.
And when it comes to the teachings of the guided words of the way of life, it's a summary of what he had learned.
Not only this book,
Yeah,
but the
what he
rest
had
of
learned,
it.
yeah, what he had learned by following the practice of the Bodhisattva,
Right, okay.
by following the teachings of the Buddha.
Right.
And he did a lot of research on the teachings of the Buddha and Sutra, the teaching, the sutras, and the actual teachings that given by the Buddha. He has gone through the studies of all that, and then he written this book. And as a summary of the practice, what he had done is the guide to the Bodhisattva of life.
So if we read the Dharmapada while we were studying this book, it would give an additional depth.
What is the Dhammapada?
Yeah, yeah.
Chögi dom lai kena kimrawa.
去东西这边都
Chögi dom di jere na di chagan di na diyo ba.
去些东
Dhammapada sutta.
去些东西这边都嘛了，
This thing in the chögi dom is domjit ten de dos listen. It's just sutra or shastra. If we have a Dhammapada, that's part of sutra, part of shastra. So
Oh, you're beyond like that. The book I have is saying the Buddha Dharmapada.
那么罢了，
Yeah,
那罢了你去撞了，
it's an English book.
Dhammapada or Dhammapala?
Pada,
Pada is chögi dom.
sayings of Buddha, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, okay. That's the book I'm referencing.
去些东西啊的那句，去些东西这边都是要觉得，
The four sutras of Dhammapada, so we don't have four.
嗯，
Maybe next week we'll get an answer.
你这他就没打吧，咱这他就多么嘛，去的就当一干部，那个人这个希望噻，啊个，去东西。
No?
Not very clear about that, yeah.
Okay, so basically just stick to the guide and look at the parallel and try to get my 10% of knowledge. Okay, thank you.
叫他来对那了呀，等你多的忙不都是容易接到啊，加上喜欢的可能个东北那些这个的，等你三几个送别，等你多的忙不都是今年新就那呢，等那呢的，讲究这种过车的，他们是对你，如果个人对吧是加上多的忙不就对你，反正等那就是。
So this, it's a training anthology of Shantideva.
Mhm.
Siksa Samuccaya in Sanskrit. What written is compendium of knowledge. It's a compendium of knowledge.
Right.
And so here, because Shantideva has actually gone through a studies of a lot of sutras.
Right.
The word of the Buddha, in other words, the sutra. Whatever teachings that he had found, he read and he knew about.
Okay, so,
He just read all that, and then you clearly see that when he actually wrote this text, you see a citation, the cites, you see a quotation from many different sutras, right? Many different sutras, which clearly means that he actually, went through all those teachings given by the Buddha. And whatever the teachings that he understood, he knew. And then he's just giving the explanation. And not only does he give us explanation, but he's just saying, I've found such and such sutra has said that, and this is how we should be doing. This is how it is.
so is this like Cliff Notes?
You understand Cliff Notes?
I don't know what that
You don't know
is.
Cliff Notes?
Well, for many books that are very complicated in the English language, they have compiled sort of summaries to make it easier for people to understand.
What kind of
There's sort of a
commentary
summary
or
of the
Summary of,
Yeah, like
like
a
a summary
summary.
of something that's
I-
more complete and whole. This is sort of a summary.
okay.
Yeah, did it sound similar to Cliff Notes when he was talking about it? I'm sorry, when he was talking about it.
Ask the question. Just let him ask the questions.
Okay.
Yeah. The Jerry and the Shola, the Sunny Soya, Totigate, Kanta, Dondidos, Domo, which is Dondido Celesti. Yeah, you could say it's a condensation or,
Okay, good,
it's a summary of the
right,
different sutras, summary of the different sutras.
okay. We'll get Buddhist Cliff Notes for you next week, so you can see what Cliff Notes are. You
당기
know, thank you.
그런 게 딱고 단다도 마시기도 돼 라레 그래 가본도 숨어라.
No.
저도 모두 담아들은 대결에 있어가지고 그 시도 되려셔대 안에 가본도 숨어라. 대결 때문에 방에서도 신이지는 소속이 시에도 눈물이었어.
So now, the important is that if we are truly become a practitioner, then we should listen to the teachings and then contemplate and think again and again. This is the way of practicing ourselves, and this is the way how we should improve ourselves. But just by listening and reading alone is not going to change us. So our main goal to receive the teachings and following the teachings is to change ourselves, who we are right now. That's the main important thing.
배나 누구인 잠마당 세야지. 배시나 소소래야 나주 자고는 며칠 소소근 장부지니 뭐니 투요를 투여말. 소소가 되는 중요를 중요말. 뭐니 소소를 하는 걸 하다 진짜는 중요나 때문에 중요를 소소가 시발해. 나는 모두 좋아하는 맛이에 대해 또 이말서 라바라바던 거에 대해 얘기 해봐주는 것도 있지니 그래 줘.
So for instance, as we talked about earlier, that when someone tried to inflict harm upon us, and we should not, react accordingly. In other words, we should not, retaliate. And it is not, if you look at this, then it's something that makes us impossible, right? If you look at our attitude and our behavior, when someone says something about us, bad about us, and it is almost impossible, or even one may say that if you don't retaliate and use this, if you do not say something back to that person accordingly, we might think that we are being stupid, but it is not. But for that, whether it is we're being wise or whether we're being, unwise, in other words, the word I wouldn't say stupid, but unwise or wise, it really need to contemplate and think. If you retaliate, what will happen? If you do not retaliate and try to try to show your own practice of love and compassion to that person who will have what this will happen to them. And not only just when you look at the text and we understand it, or we understand the words and the teachings, it's so descriptive. But when it comes to the putting into practice, it's a little bit difficult for us. But it really requires for us to contemplate and think, and again and again.
So,
왜냐면 마다바는 시작하는 대기가 타버리잖아요. 근데 마다바 또서 무슨 마다바 참고 또 그러면 마다바 라바또 받으는 것도 마다바 또 쓰고 말해. 이는 모든 ito mataba chini thama yi bai raba ya toga ma de dai ko shon no mataba musani da mataba zen den de ya yin de ji do de ga wa muni so da mataba hi bala mataba toga mataba toga mataba toya ko chi ma toga toya ko chi ma toga mataba thama toga na ji.
For instance, when we talk of impermanence, teachings on impermanence, we all know what impermanent means. And we think that we know the impermanent. But just by seeing something is changing, changing the color of leaves and changing or something that diminishes and something that is vivid, some object that is being destroyed and you see that alone is not reflection, or that alone is not the practice of understanding of impermanence. In order to understand the change, in order to understand the impermanent, we need to understand the subtle level of impermanence. The subtle level of impermanence is, for instance, you just think about the change that you may see in a year. For instance, our physical change. We all experience that. We know that when you look at the mirror and you see gray hairs are all over and wrinkles are forming more and more. And that changes have not taken place overnight. That 1 year of change has gone through the process of the changing within the month. The month can be reduced to the week can be reduced to the day can be reduced to the hours, an hour can be reduced to the minute can be reduced to the second can be reduced to the millisecond, and so on. So this is how the change, it is without a break. The change has taken place without a break. But we have no idea of how the change is really happening. We only come to know that when the leaf becomes a yellow or the orange, and you see the leaf is changing now. But the change has already begun. As soon as the leaf begin to, as soon as the sprout of leaf is, begin to germinate, then it goes through its change without having any, even one moment. So without each and every moment, it keeps changing. So this kind of change should be reflected, must be understood. In order to understand the subtle level of impermanence.
Thank you. Okay.
So this is how these guys, the reason of saying that reflection and understanding is more important, but while reading and understanding the meaning.
나라에 계산 서시의 때에 뭐지 신의적인 시드면도 시행 시행하는 서서게 근데 다지다지 보아자 근데 서시의 때는 뭐니 되는 시드면
I myself sometimes think that I know this, I know that. I have seen this in books, I've seen that. But when I think very carefully, I do not know anything. This is what
Yes, I know that feeling.
So we should say the dedication prayer is beginning on page 23 and 24, and then continue with auspicious wishes on page 28. Saji Puki
Meto Jera Leje de Jempa Sanji Jindo Mende Boai Logananda Yana Jebarasho Yanda Lama Rame Jeje Bela Lonjeje Sadan Lamje Yede Razone Doje Jangi Gomani Dosho Dana Menda Lagane Atayame Tsunami Kosera ji nanga jene chocho gebana rosa dembe drome sasunji droye mese tato ne juro ji
Kanri Ravi
koye jingazo beda dewa maru juvene jere sewa tese jansoyi jabe zete bado te juro ji
Champel Power
Cheta Chembana Godo Zambo Deya Dijete Deda Kunji Jiso Darochi Yawa Deda Tamchera Tomo Yoso Jibe Jawa Tamcheki Mowa Gala Chodo Ngapade Dagi Give Tawa Deguja Sambo Chichera Tomo Waraji
Would Geshe like to come and volunteer?